You hear a lot of talk about people being on demon time. A lot with the Gen Zs, they on demon time. What you see is the left hand meaning of demon time with the wild styles, the wild hair. For those of them that profess it to be this way, you understand. I'm not using this as a judgment. Based on the particular artist and practitioner's own account of what they represent, they're on demon time and they have a certain look, style, certain attitude that comes with it, is rebellious, and is representing a certain part of hell, not the Luciferian side. This is representing the satanic side. It's more of a revolutionary act of rebellion type of energy. To say we came up in the midst of a broken system, which a lot of Gen Zs did. They came up to see, they came up in the realm of a false prediction. A lot of them was like being born just a few years before the year 2000. So they were hearing things like the world's going to collapse at 2000 and this, that. And they saw one of their first accounts of linking man up with history is that they seen that his timing was off. This is one of the first things that a Gen Z may have experienced coming up, is man being proven wrong by the weather, the storms and all of that started to get crazy. Yeah, stock market, you had Enron, you had the 9/11 attacks. Gen Zs were born in a very catastrophic and confusing era where they had to see a lot of their parents be confused on a level that maybe the parents of the generation or the parents of the millennials may not have. There may have been a little bit of monotony as far as world events going on there, but things were upside down and very wildly conspiratorial on a scene not seen since the 60s. That was going on in the late 90s, late 60s, 6, 9. You see the numerology framework, a number spinning around on you, the 90s and the 60s, the zeros don't count. It's a 9 and a 6 that's spinning around on us in mad existential levels. And look we just using events of human history. But when numbers are moving around, these are the right-hand meanings of demon time. One translation of scriptures, a Bible, calls a demon something that's less than a minus. To be less than a minus, we understand in math is what is called a negative number. If you put a negative and positive number together, you get something. These things won't necessarily total it to zero unless they're canceling out. Has to be an equal level, like -2 plus +2 equals 0. It's like a meeting in the middle. And this is where you get the actual true movement of numbers versus just counting going from one number to the next. When you're sliding to the left of 0, now you're dealing with what is called less than minus. Demon time. Why less than minus is so important, though, on the counter, is that it splits time frame up into these very, very fine nanoseconds. And it's perfect for planning. See, when we say demon and minus, we don't mean having adversarial energy. We're talking more of understanding how energy is siphoned, more of a Luciferian type of knowledge, not in practice, but in just understanding that in all things and in all interactions, energy is being siphoned between people and things. That sums it up in a nutshell. This is what you are to bear light upon. This is why we are light bearers. We're bearing light on the fact that energy is constantly exchanged between people and things for all eternity, no matter what those things change into. The energy is constant. In the vast multitude of its expression seems to be just as eternal. But these things will be considered demon time. You go to the right of the 0 is a different kind of mathematical spiritual expression. There is no time in what you would call angel realms, in God realms, right? They say time ends, there is no time, or they call it a forever and ever, which is basically the end of time. There's a conclusion in a paradise scene. Just like you had descriptions of eternity in a suffering scene. Either way, you have this idea of the end of time, but because you have an ongoing of life, you'll never have a true end of time. This is the understanding of what is called demon time. On one side, it seems that time is ending, and then on the other, to the left of zero, you're chopping every second up into thousands of slivers of events. So now let's get into thought forms. You link thought forms up with the idea of demon time. When we say thought forms, we don't necessarily mean you being able to form a verbal statement with clarity. That's not what we mean. Thought form, we don't mean the formulation of a thought that way. We mean more of mental imagery that's persisted in until it burns into the screen of your experience for both you and others to see with the five senses, to experience with the five senses. This is the bringing in of thought forms, what is basically happening when you're slicing up time. Because in every second, there's however many nanoseconds, etc. Sure, we can say that we're not moving as fast as time, but that's only when we consider our limbs and everything like that. But there's things that's happening in our brain, trillions of movements inside of a second, or however they measure it off. Considering this helps you to master a thought form and master what is called demon time. You get this imagery of things like vampires being able to move so fast that they can defy time, demon time. They can't take the sun. They have to live in the night. They can't even live under anything that symbolizes time. They on demon time. Vampires got to live in the shadows. And when we talk about the queen of the vampires, let's introduce her into the mythos. The demoness Lilith. Now she has her own sphere of the clip off on the cliphotic tree of death. She has her own sphere, and she has jurisdiction over Gamaliel. She interacts there, and she has her original place in Soterio under Governor Lucifuge. When you look at the mythos, you can break down the parts for personal empowerment. All you have to do is decipher what the elements are and what they represent. And let's also bring in Samael, the husband of Lilith. Samael, the archangel, the trickster, the one who can fly between both realms, the one who gives you the venom that takes the illusion away, that lets you know that a lot of what you may have experienced, you've been lied to about. It's that wow feeling, like, wow, I really get it now. That is the effects of Samael's venom when the veil is torn away. All of this, though, has everything to do with demon time. The right hand meaning, you understand? Not the left hand meaning. This is not talking about any harm or any type of violent uprisings or anything of that nature whatsoever. We are just talking about dealing in the shadows of what is not usually placed under the light of regular human consciousness as it pertains to time. We're dealing with what is called less than minus. Minus time. We're chopping it up. We're planning it out. So you have the character, you got Lilith, and that is a Luciferian concept because vampires do what? Take energy, life force, lifeblood. They survive, defy time by living hundreds of years longer. The defying of time is what happens on the left-hand side of time when you're dealing with minus time. When you're dealing with plus time, you're dealing with either the ongoing or the end of all time. The end of all time will be right in the middle of zero. So you're right in the perfect balance of negative time and full time, being able to see things on a whole and being able to see things in little puzzle pieces that come together to make the whole. That's all we're basically saying. With this being understood, you got the reality of knowing what you know now and being able to sync it up with what you were told to believe when you were younger. And now you're comparing notes. And the chemistry that's going on inside you with that is you taking a shot of Samael's venom. He's pouring shot after shot. Every truth that you pull the covers off of, everything that's been hidden that you reveal, that you discover, all your aha moments is a swig. That's a pop of Samael's venom. And so Samael, he's connected to Lilith, right? Because having a brand new sense of truth and knowing something and having that real brilliant moment where you're learning something new when a vital piece of the puzzle comes together for you is a rejuvenation of life. It's like having fresh blood. So you got Lilith to remind you that a new idea or a fresh idea is like fresh blood in the veins, making you feel like you can live for hundreds of years. You can stay up all night at your craft if you can afford it. You can do it like that. Like you got that kind of energy, that kind of vibe about you. This is the connection, though. This is what the marriage of Samael and Lilith is when you put it on a very applicable level for personal empowerment. She comes from Lucifuge's domain, Soterio. That's when you're dealing with the span, even wider berth between insanity, delirium, and perfect logic and clear reasoning, because now you're stepping down what is the true halls of judgment, the pitch black hallways of the mind, because you're working your way up to the third eye. You're working your way in the tunnels of your mind. You're thinking, you're comparing all your notes, right? You're looking at all the natural phenomena. You're doing all the reading, the meditating. You're seeing where it all makes sense and how you can apply it to make your life better. That's what this is all about. And then when the lights finally cut on, they call that what? The eye of Shiva, or also known as the eye of the shining one. That's why they have the light bulb in the head, and that's why they be having stuff like the speech bubbles and the cartoons, the comics and stuff like that. It's to let you know, like that's where the light also shines. You know, you got two great lights, one to rule the day and one to rule the night. The light right here is to rule the day. That's your mind's eye. The other light, your heart, is to rule the night, which is what? Your inner thoughts, the stuff that you don't tell everybody. Your personal life. God, in the beginning, God created two great lights, right? One to rule the day, one to rule the night, right? He said, this is the land that he's giving you for you to inherit, your own body. This is why he was telling Abraham, yeah, wherever your feet land, that's yours. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about land. I'm talking about your body. Talking about you are the temple of the Holy Spirit. This is what Paul told the people. You could take all that without even being religious and glean every bit of empowerment out of it. It's telling you that the thing that lives forever, of which all things exist and subsist, this thing is living in you, and you and me, just as people, we are 100% full expressions of that. And you can call it whatever your customs and people call it, but it is that. You know what I mean? Everybody, each person is a different expression of this thing that made everything and everybody. And I'm talking like on a bigger level where it would even be beneath language to even call the Most High, the very, very Most High God is really not even a good enough word. The real definition is really beyond language. But encapsulating all of this is what helps you understand what demon time is about. because the Lord also, they also have a passage in Isaiah where it says the Lord told Isaiah, or either him or one of the other prophets, both darkness and light are the same to me. I see both. I see the end of all time, basically, right? I see the ongoing of time, and I see the subtraction of time. I can see the circle that time is. And at any given time, I can take the circle, break the circle, and form it into any shape that I want. See, when you look at a person who makes balloons in a circus, like a clown, they be taking the balloon and forming it into all shapes. You notice that air is going into it. Air symbolizes what? Life. Life, your air, your life, you can shape it into anything. But understanding that is understanding what demon time is about. You're taking all of your wind, you're taking all of your aspirations, all of your thought forms, right? Which is images and scenes of the world you wanna be in, versus the world that is around you, right? You're not getting so caught up in outer darkness where you're having weeping and gnashing of teeth, but you're existing in the inner darkness, right? You're building your kingdom within, because you know that that's where the kingdom of heaven is, within, right? Your paradise is within you, which means your paradise is your responsibility, for both growing, for both creating and maintaining. Everything that you'll ever take in through the five senses is the information that you will use to prove it. To prove that the one who made all of these universes is you, just as much as it's me, just as much as it's anything else. Anything that's that big, that made everything to that level, the one who makes all of the universes, how could there be anything that's not it, he or she, right? This would make God also a place, the idea of everywhere. In that everywhere, though, you would be having to understand, you would have to understand demon time. On the right hand side, the right hand meaning of demon time. Because they do call Samael a demon, and Samael also has a clip off. He has his own sphere on the clip off. In the tree of death, he has his own clip off too. Yet he has the title still of archangel, though, according to the true mythos. Or I should say the more original, ancient mythos, before really Nicaea and them got their hands on it, right? Because you got to consider both parts of history when you're piecing all this together. And you do the channelings based on the information you learned. That's a good point to make. So you want to make sure you're separating true, good, helpful information from just mumble jumble and somebody that's just wanting to razzle dazzle you. You do want to make a distinction between those who are really trying to help you and those who really trying to get you nowhere. But understanding this, though, you got to understand demon time. You got to know how to work to the left of the zero, to know how to work with the what? What is that called? Negative numbers, the negative moments, the negative times, negative experiences. You are bringing that to the right so you can bring it into zero. If you're too airy fairy on the right, if you're too love is light and life is falling apart and you're in denial about it, to the point of shutting out the world and just wanting to be in la la land, then you're too far to the right of zero. You're at the end of time, and you don't want to get stuck there either. Because when you're in the end of time, nothing changes. Nothing new can be expected. It will be like a purgatory rather than a real paradise that thrives and grows and expands. No, you'll be like stuck in a room type of psyche. You will have to move to the left to get toward zero. If you're too high and mighty, you have to start moving toward the left to get more grounded, more down to earth. If you're too far left and you on the way to facing 999 years because you about to start physically slaying people out here, you so charged up, you got to start moving all the way to the right to start relaxing to get into zero and being like, you know what? I could just take 5 taekwondo classes a week and just get all of that off like that. You know what I mean? So that's an example. But you probably don't hear this being associated with demon time, but we are dealing with less than minus, and what we are saying with less than zero to the left of zero, we're dealing in the realm of premeditation. All we did with using all of that, those illustrations, was show you in very very fine nanoseconds what the path of a thought is. Mapping out the path of a thought makes you move and accomplish things faster than the speed of light. Now, while this might not be able to be measured per se, the speed of light is basically measured. What is it, 186,000 miles a second? And you would have to do some kind of equation to convert that with the 86,000 thoughts we think per day. And if there was some way to measure the manifestation of thoughts, like you would have to take every inventor, whatever they said before they were going to make it, and the fact that it became made, you would have to compare the energy of that somehow, I guess, and synchronize it with light. But every single day we're having 100 or 86,000 thoughts per se. And this process is happening in every last one of them. Even the ones that are on repeat is going through this real diverse path that has all of these different psyches and characteristics and lessons wrapped up in them. If you get this smoothly, what is going to have you doing is being very selective, even more selective of your words than usual, but more fluent in your expression, of course. But it's going to make it seem like time is slowing down. It will make time seem like it's flowing exactly how you need it to. If you needed to fly by, it'll fly by. If you needed to stop, it'll seem like it's not moving. If you needed to slow down or rewind, it's going to seem like it's moving so slow that it did rewind. But this has everything to do also with the universal law of divine flow. Check that out. That's one of the universal laws of being in divine flow, where you could be in this space where time itself don't matter. Even if you got deadlines, there's ways into that, and you can't do stuff like that without understanding the right hand meaning of demon time, which we basically talked about here. So thank you again for your time and attention to Super T Sigma. You already know, over here reaching is teaching. You continue to vibrate high, people. Peace.